Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, there lived a king who had 3 sons. All three were intelligent and skilled in every art and craft. Whether it was archery, sword fighting, or the intricacies of warfare, they were masters of all. The princes had grown up, and the king wished for them to be married. He called an astrologer and shared his thoughts. The astrologer asked for 2 days, and then returned to the court on the third day with his advice. He revealed that while the marriages of the 3 princes were destined, there would be a challenge for one of them. "I cannot say which one," the astrologer said, "but send them with me to the jungle, and I will arrange something." Thus the 3 princes went with the astrologer into the jungle. Standing by a tree, the astrologer instructed them, "Shoot an arrow from your bow. Wherever your arrow lands, a princess from that kingdom will be chosen as your bride." The eldest prince's arrow landed in a grand kingdom in Turkey. The second prince's arrow was found in a state in the Deccan. However, the youngest prince's arrow struck the tail of a monkey sitting on a tree. The monkey was brought down from the tree, and it was decided that the youngest prince would marry her. He was heartbroken and ashamed, but he remained silent out of respect for his parents' wishes. The royal weddings were celebrated with great pomp. The princesses from Turkey and the Deccan arrived in the palace, but the youngest prince arranged for a separate palace for his bride. The elder princes lived happily with their beautiful wives, but the youngest prince was miserable, as his bride was a mere monkey. One day, the king and queen decided to test their daughters-in-law's skills and gave each of them a handkerchief to embroider. The elder daughters-in-law started working diligently, making intricate floral designs. The youngest prince felt ashamed, but when the monkey asked him what was wrong, he told her. She assured him and asked for the handkerchief. When the embroidered handkerchiefs were presented, the king and queen were astounded to see that the most beautiful embroidery was done by the youngest prince's wife, the monkey. The elder daughters-in-law felt envious. A few days later, the king and queen expressed their desire to taste food cooked by their daughters-in-law. The elder daughters-in-law busied themselves in the preparations, while the youngest prince again felt embarrassed. Once again, the monkey reassured him. When the dishes were served, the aroma of the youngest daughter-in-law's food filled the hall. The colors and presentation of her dishes were so mesmerizing that everyone stared in awe. When the king and queen tasted it, they couldn't stop praising it. Once more, the youngest daughter-in-law, despite being a monkey, had excelled beyond expectations. The king and queen then wished to see all 3 daughters-in-law together. The youngest prince was devastated. Cooking and embroidery were one thing, but how could a monkey sit among the most beautiful princesses? The monkey sensed his distress and said, "I will go alone in the palanquin. You do not have to be there." The prince agreed. The elder daughter-in-law appeared first, dressed in a soft pink gown, looking stunning. The second daughter-in-law came out in an emerald green outfit, adorned with gold jewelry. Then the youngest daughter-in-law stepped out of the palanquin. As her delicate, fair feet touched the ground, the anklets on her feet shimmered. When she removed her veil, the king and queen were left speechless. She was radiant, draped in a deep red gown, glowing like a gem. Her hair sparkled, her rosy lips curved in a graceful smile, and she looked as delicate as a flower. Everyone in the palace was astonished by her beauty. When the youngest prince heard of this, he secretly rushed to his wife's chamber, only to find the monkey's skin lying aside. He immediately burned it. As the princess sat in the gathering, a strange pain shot through her body. She rushed back to her chamber, her feet and body burning as though set on fire. By the time she reached the palace, her skin was already damaged. She ran inside, saw the burnt monkey skin, and collapsed, writhing in pain. The prince was horrified. Physicians and healers from across the kingdom were summoned, but none could relieve her pain. Even doctors from foreign lands tried and failed. The prince was distraught with guilt and worry. One day, while wandering in the royal gardens, he heard 2 birds talking. "She is not a monkey, but a princess from the fairyland," one bird said. But what was her mistake that she was cursed? Asked the second bird. In fairyland, no one is allowed to visit the human world, but she disobeyed this rule. As punishment, she was turned into a monkey, so she could never return. Is there any cure for her pain? Yes, the first bird replied. If the fruit of this very tree is crushed and applied to her wounds, she will heal. But humans always seek expensive medicines and fail to see the magic in nature. The prince looked up and thanked the birds. He gathered the fruit, ground it into a paste, and applied it to his wife's wounds himself. Miraculously, she started recovering, and within 2 days she was completely healed. However, she remained silent. On the third evening, as the prince sat beside her, the door opened and the king and queen of fairyland entered. Their presence illuminated the chamber. The princess immediately rushed to them, fell at their feet, and wept, seeking forgiveness. The fairy king lifted her up and embraced her. "My child, you have suffered enough. Your punishment is over," he said. The fairy queen also hugged her daughter and blessed the prince. "If you wish, you may come to fairyland and live there," the fairy king offered. But the prince declined with gratitude. "I wish to stay in my own land and serve my parents," he said. The fairy king was pleased and showered him with gifts from fairyland before leaving. From then on, the prince and his princess lived happily ever after.